Welcome to another week, another show of Hawkeyed with me, Dave O'Hara. Thanks for tuning in. Got another great show lined up for this week. I know you'll think so. It is our year-end edition, and there they are. Craig and Stacy Schroeder with Fight with Flash Foundation via Facebook or fightwithflash.org. Craig and Stacy, how are we doing this week?
We're doing fantastic today.
Yes.
Craig, Stacy, let's do it. Let's get right to it. Drum roll Stacy just gave us. There it is, folks, right there. So Craig, Stacy, put a little context to this, please.
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
Craig, your turn.
You don't want to hear me sing.
150,000, 22 appropriately enough. Flash's number, $22. Congratulations going to AYA, the Stead Family Children's Hospital at University of Iowa. Congratulations. We're going to talk more about this during the Fight with Flash Foundation segment on DaveO'HaraSports.com. So go to the website after this television show. Craig and Stacy are going to tell us more, right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Great stuff out of you two. Congratulations. God, that's awesome. Back with more Hawkeyed in just a few moments. Welcome back to Hawkeyed with me, Dave O'Hara. James Vandenberg joining us here, former Hawkeye quarterback. And we'll be having James Morris, former Hawkeye linebacker, joining us in the next segment. So we're going to separate the James gang today and get into bowl prep for the Citrus Bowl with the Hawkeyes and talk offense first and defense second. And we'll close out the show, of course, with John Leo of KRUI Sports play-by-play. So, James, first and foremost, as always, thanks for joining us. And secondly, Kirk Ferentz, 9-8, and going into his 18th bowl in 23 years at Iowa. Talk to us about what you went through during your time for the Iowa Hawkeyes as a quarterback. What was bowl prep like for you?
Bowl prep has a lot of variability and phases to it, and it depends on the health of the team, the individual guys. It depends on the age of the guys. Bowl prep is a huge part of developmental work. I mean, you think about it, all year you prep 1 week for an opponent, essentially. And bowl prep, all of a sudden, you get roughly, let's just call it a month. You don't need to prep for one team for a month, although you will get to prep for that team more than the regular week. But that just means you're going to get a lot of young guys taking a lot of reps leading up to this bowl week. There's going to be work going before you get to actual game week on a general game plan, maybe some shot type ideas, but really you're going to get a lot of developmental work, a lot of kind of healing for guys that are banged up, and then you're going to get a kind of a running start into that game week.
Well, we're going to have a little less of a running start with Tyler Goodson, pun intended here, going to be entering the NFL draft. Tyrone Tracy Jr. has left the Hawkeyes, entered the transfer portal, and is already committed to go to Purdue, so in David Bell's place next year. So talk about that as a leader and a quarterback. Do you talk to your guys any differently? I know Williams is going to have to step up. He's got a lot of carries this season. But again, how does that change things for you in the quarterback room with either Ken O'Keefe as your quarterback coach, Brian Ferentz, your offensive coordinator, and Kirk Ferentz, your head coach? Is there anything different going on here? Any conversations?
Well, I think that whole dynamic is different than even when I played. People didn't skip bowl games. People didn't enter transfer portals. So it's a little bit foreign to me. I think in both those cases, though, we've seen Williams at running back. He's done a good job. He's downhill. And we've seen a lot of guys at receiver that can kind of carry that load. So I don't think either of them are that detrimental to us. In general, though, that's a new aspect of college football that I don't fully understand.
Well, let's go in there just for a second, though. Would you talk to the younger guys? I've had many conversations with Jordan Canzeri off the air and on the air about you, and he said, coming as a freshman, everybody was, patting him on the back saying, and to his credit, he knew the playbook right away, played as a freshman as a running back like Williams is, and that's not common during the Kirk Ferentz era, as we know, but he said a lot of that was to upperclassmen and a quarterback leader like you when he came in as a freshman to advance him or get him ready for that level. So would you talk to Williams if you're Spencer Petras or Alex Padilla?
100%. Yeah, you're going to try to bring that guy along even further, but that should have started in the summer because, the first time you meet these guys, you can tell the guys that are going to contribute, or at least the guys you think are going to contribute. And it's a George Kittle when he weighs 190 pounds. That's the one I remember kind of in the outgoing part of my career, but you can tell CJ Fedorowicz was about in the middle of my career. You could just tell that high schooler is not normal. So,
well, what about them, James? I got to jump in. What about them leaps out to you that tells you, hey, this guy's different?
I think it's as simple as throwing them routes for the first time. The first time we go do routes on air, you kind of get a general sense of, this guy's going to play here and be a stud, or I don't think this guy's ever going to play here. And that might be a little harsh from one time, but there's just recruiting has so much variability. So until you get all these guys on the same field comparing against each other, it's really hard. And so you might have a guy who comes from 8-man football that isn't highly touted, and he runs routes and gets open. And I mean, I think of guys, not 8-man football, but Alan Reisner. I mean, Alan Reisner, you just knew, even though he was under-recruited and undersized, it's like, man, he's always open, always open. I think Matt Vandenberg probably would have gone into that spectrum years ago, even though I didn't play with him. But as a quarterback, you can just tell. I don't know how to describe it other than you take me out to one session and we work for an hour throwing routes, I can rank you who's going to play and what the depth chart is going to be. Some guys are going to develop quicker. Some guys are going to get injured. Some guys are going to struggle with the playbook more. But from a pure physical perspective, you can tell the guys that coming out of high school are the most ready to play.
I get that. So it's for you, it's a vibe and a feel, and we're not there. And that goes back to what you and I talk about quite regularly. As fans, we're not there. We don't know what goes on in the practice field and the quarterback room, the meeting room. So I appreciate you taking us inside that. So now we go to scheme. And, Kentucky is a 22nd ranked team in the country. Former Hawkeye defensive back Mark Stoops, the younger brother to Bob Stoops, is coaching Kentucky. And we know the heritage and lineage of coaching in the Stoops family. Bob Stoops, very successful run as a DC throughout college football, Florida. And then he goes to Oklahoma as the head coach successfully for years. Mark was his DC defensive coordinator for a while, was at K-State, and then went to Oklahoma with Bob, and now a head coach in his own right. The Wildcats are 22nd ranked in the country. The Hawks are 10-3 and 15th ranked in the country, yet the Hawks go in as the underdog here, James. So I know the betting line shouldn't affect prep for the bowl game, but in your eyes, in your mind, what do you see when you come into that Hawkeye offense and when you mentioned you're going to have a month to get ready? What are some of the other subtleties that we as fans won't be aware of that you guys are working on, that the Hawks are working on during workouts right now?
Well, subtleties, I'm not trying to let the viewers down, but there ain't going to be that much different. I mean, I tend to be the bearer of bad news that it kind of stays the same.
Okay.
Depending on the scheme, depending on what they like to do, which I believe Mark Stoops was at Arizona when we played them when I was at Iowa. But I mean, depending on the scheme, there might be more shot plays. We might be leaning into something a little more than what we would normally do. But this is all about continuing to hone and continuing to get healthy. I just remember as a player, though, one awesome aspect is just going down to play in hot air. It's kind of crazy how much better your joints feel, your arm feels. Like you get worn down through colder and colder Iowa weather, and then you go down to Florida and it's like you can throw the ball 60, 70 yards again and it feels good. So that's just kind of an upbeat thing for the players. But as far as insider subtleties that are going to be that much different, without being there, I don't really know them, but I would assume it's kind of standard operating procedure, prepping for what we know is a good opponent.
Okay, I'll pull the wrapping off and just get to it. Any more trick plays, gadget plays? We'll make our mutual friend Jeff Mershman happy, and we'll talk about the flea flicker.
If Potabomb wouldn't have fallen down, maybe there would be, but maybe I don't know after that one.
I knew it. You're trying to get me wound up again. Okay, Potabomb drops the ball, and that ruined the trick plays moving forward. Thanks for that, James. Well, let's get a prediction time. So we're not going to be doing another show before the bowl game. We're going to be doing a best of and some McCaffrey clips that we recorded earlier this year.
I'm giving you a Hawks win. I don't know anything about Kentucky. Okay. Nothing.
I'm fine with that. I'll go with the Hawks win too.
Underdogs.
All right, I'll go with the Hawks win too. We won't go straight prediction. We'll just go Hawks winning, and we won't get into the score of it. James, thank you so much, and we'll catch up with you. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to you and your family. We look forward to catching up with you after the first of the year. Thanks, James.
Thanks, Dave. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. And back with more Hawkeyed in just a few moments.
In farming, everybody knows relationships drive the industry. And with Mershman Seeds, you've got a friend in the field. Hi, this is Joe Mershman. We're the friend that delivers with extraordinary speed. We're the friend that shares knowledge and innovation. We're the friend that cares about your yields and profits. And we just happen to have the most advanced seed technology in the industry. When you choose the best seed, you also get the best people. Merschman Seeds, your friend in the field.
Hi, I'm Joel from Tice Chevrolet. We've lived through some very interesting times the last few months. Ensuring everyone's safety is more important than ever. That is why we are participating in the Chevy Clean program. At your request, we will pick up your vehicle, service it, and return it after we've cleaned it using the current CDC guidelines. This is just another way to work towards exceeding your expectations. So give us a call and let us show you what it means to be part of the Tice Automotive family.
Welcome back to Hawkeyed. As you can see, James Morris joining us, the former Hawkeye linebacker. Let's just call it what it is. He's the quarterback of the defense. Also a former Solon, Iowa great, as well as an NFLer and a Super Bowl champion. So James, as always, thanks for joining us, and let's get right to it. We had the quarterback of the offense joining us in the previous segment, and talked about bowl prep for the offense. We'll have you talk about bowl prep for the defense, but I must have you bring an off-air comment that you made. You got to bring it back on the air. You cautioned me. What was the caution?
Oh, you got to give me a hint, Dave.
You said I should have you on before Vandenberg because why?
Oh, if you put Vandy on first, your ratings will tank and you'll lose all your viewers on the front end.
All right, well, we got them all back now because of you. So the glitz and glamour is back. So, James, let's do it. Let's just get to it. Defense, your playing days, what was bowl prep like, and what do you think the Hawks are going through today? Now, I will say this to you. With a month to prepare, Hawks going in as the underdog, oddly enough. The 22nd ranked Kentucky Wildcats with Mark Stoops, former Hawkeye defensive back, is the head coach. The Iowa Hawkeyes 15th ranked are the underdog here. But the offense, James Vandenberg and I talked about a little bit of an adjustment here in the 3.5 to 4 weeks prep. No Tyler Goodson and no Tyrone Tracy. We know Tyrone is transferring to Purdue, and Tyler Goodson says he's going to the NFL. So give us your thoughts on that for the offense adjustments and your takeaway on those two guys transferring or leaving.
Yeah, and before I dive into that too, Dave, I just got to make one correction on one of your comments from earlier in the segment.
Please.
Here. You mentioned that the linebacker was the quarterback of the defense, and how we refer to it on defense is that the quarterback is the linebacker of the offense. So we just want to make sure when we're in the defensive segment, we refer to that correctly. So
I stand corrected
going forward.
I stand corrected, and thank you for getting me corrected. So thank you, James.
I mean, listen, Tyrone and Tyler were two big pieces of the offense. And I think the story all year has been, hey, let's figure out a way to get Tyrone more touches than what we have. And they had one more game to try and kind of solve that puzzle, and they're not going to have him. One thing I would say is I've been really encouraged by the performance of Gavin Williams throughout the year. And then they've also shown that Arlen Bruce, can do something with the ball when he gets it in a rushing capacity. And Keegan Johnson's really come on in the second half of this season. So, yeah, it hurts not having Goodson for the bowl game for sure. But I think between the guys that I mentioned and Laporta, I think they got enough weapons to win. Those guys are just going to have to continue to develop and continue to step up, which they've done all year long. I mean, listen, this team's won 10 games.
Yeah. Well, so now your thoughts about Tyler Goodson. Do you think he gets drafted? Is he a late pick? And again, Tracy going to Purdue, trying to replace David Bell, and he's an Indiana kid, so that makes sense for Tyrone, and all the best to him, and all the best to Tyler Goodson. But what are your thoughts, pre-draft prospects here for Tyler Goodson?
Yeah, I want to qualify my comments because I'm not an NFL scout.
Sure.
I'm not in those meetings with the GMs. I've been through that process. I've been an undrafted free agent, and then obviously spoken with a number of scouts when I was playing. So I know how they think. And so first I'll say I understand why Tyler Goodson is leaving, in that running backs do have such a short shelf life. And so if he's trying to prioritize that, then I understand that to a degree. But I also feel like he strikes me as one of those players that still has something to prove, and a good outing against a good SEC defense could really help his potential draft stock. And when you think about drafted running backs in the NFL and what those guys look like, the guys that are going in the first 2 days are what we call every down backs, which means they can be in on first, second, and third down. And they're different things for each down scenario. And so on first and second down, you need a multi-purpose back that can get tough yardage with 2 tight end sets. And on third down, you need a back that's very versatile and can catch the ball out of the backfield. And if you're not one of those guys in the NFL, then you got to be good on special teams. And who are guys that have good special teams backgrounds? Guys like Sean Green, Ezekiel Elliott, like guys that have made plays on special teams. And so those are things that I'm looking for that I don't necessarily see on Tyler's resume, but that's not his fault. That's because he played early as a running back. So that's the big question I would be asking is how much is he going to be able to contribute on special teams? And I think that's really going to dictate his draft stock potentially.
I was just going to say, you're a big Solon brother to Tyler Linderbaum. He's playing in the bowl game. What are your comments to Tyler Linderbaum if he does or doesn't go to the NFL?
If he does or doesn't, I tell him to stay healthy. And I probably shouldn't even put that out in the universe. But listen, I mean, his resume speaks for itself. He's the best center in the country. He's gotten every award, rave reviews from anybody that knows football. It speaks for itself. And listen, in terms of what more could he do, he already won the Remington Award. He's the best center in the country. So the answer to the question is so obvious. If he wants to play, then let him play, and it's something he wants to do. And if he doesn't, then it's completely justified, and he's going to go have a great career in the NFL.
So you're definitely saying go to the NFL, young man.
I'm saying he needs to do what's best for him, but I would fully support that decision. And I don't know that there's necessarily anything he has left to prove in the college game. How about that?
Well stated. I won't go any farther than that, but I know you got a little extra interest because he's a guy from your home area, so I'll leave it at that. Well stated. So let's get to it about the bowl prep. What did you go through during your time there? And now Phil Parker took over for Norm Parker during your time, and now Phil is obviously in charge on the defense. What's happening with the Hawks? What did you go through, and relate that to today, please?
Yeah, bowl prep is a little bit like more of a laid back mini training camp in that you have a number of practices. And for the first couple of them, you're not necessarily doing stuff that's just Kentucky. You're doing development stuff, getting better at Iowa and Iowa, younger guys getting reps, older guys getting good reps, but also having rest. And the nice thing is you don't have classes during that window. So most of their day is their own, that being the players. So it is kind of a good time of year, a relaxed time of year. And I always remember enjoying it. And you're also looking forward to going and traveling and playing somewhere warmer. So I do have pretty fond memories of bowl prep. Yeah.
Well, I'll say this. So you're Jack Campbell, and you're leading that defense today. And any special messages to your team as the as a defensive leader? Any conversations you and Phil Parker are having as the team leader, as the defense leader? Or is this just going to be status quo and we're going to run the plan we ran all year long, 10-3, as you mentioned?
Oh, I don't know necessarily what they're talking about from a scheme standpoint, but in terms of what this game means to a program like Iowa, it's big. You've had a good season, and now you're going to go play a good opponent in the best conference in the country on what will be a nationally televised game. So they stand to benefit a lot. Is it a conference title game? No. But at the same time, it could be a very good win for this program and generate a lot of goodwill in the national media landscape, and you finish the season on a high note. So there's a lot of reasons to get up for this game. It's not just an exhibition game.
Well, I like that. You're exactly right. New Year's Six Bowl, New Year's Day, as you mentioned, national stage. Well stated. James, my friend, I look forward to catching up with you after the first of the year. You and I and James Vandenberg will talk about the post-game wrap-up after the Citrus Bowl, hopefully a Hawkeye win. I won't ask you for a specific score, but I presume you got the Hawkeyes winning like me and James Vandenberg do?
I do, yeah. It's going to be a tight game.
I like it. Do you have a score, or do you not want to give one?
I'll throw out 25-22.
Oh, okay, field goal. And he kind of winced when he said it, but I like that. That's an interesting score. James, I for sure want to tell you and your family Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Thanks for joining us. I look forward to catching up with you after the bowl game.
Likewise. Same to you, Dave.
Thanks so much. For James Morris, I'm Dave O'Hara. We'll be back with more Hawkeye in just a few moments.
Hi, I'm Joel from Tice Automotive Family. We're living through some of the most interesting and challenging times many of us have ever seen. Knowing who you can rely on is more important than ever. Many of us turn to our families to get us through, and the same holds true here. From our fair, upfront pricing to exceptional service after the sale, we truly want to exceed your expectations. So give us a call or stop by and let us show you what it means to be part of the Tice Automotive family.
Who do you trust to produce the best yield? A seed company that's chasing technology or a seed company that's writing the book on it? Hi, this is Joe Mershman. Mershman Seeds has been treating soybeans for decades, long before it was commonplace. We're the leader in technology, introducing Mershman Seeds' latest advancement in seed treatment, with an added fungicide to help produce a faster, more even emergence every single time. Who can you trust with your yields? Mershman Seeds, your friend in the field.
Welcome back to Hawkeyed with me, Dave O'Hara. John Leo joins us, KRUI Sports play-by-play guy, Iowa Hawkeye student-run radio. And John, you are in there amongst the players. You call the games. We were at the Sanford Pentagon on Saturday night. First of all, thanks for joining us here. But secondly, I know everything's busy for you, so I don't have to ask how it's going. But Hawkeyes, let's talk about the Hawks at the Sanford Pentagon last Saturday night, please.
First of all, thanks for having me, Dave. It's an honor. Sanford Pentagon was an outstanding experience for us with KRUI Sports, the student radio. When you see it on TV, you think, oh boy, it's a rundown, old school, old-fashioned gym. You get there and you find out that it's actually pretty new. And a lot of sweet seating, great environment for the fans, 3,200 folks you can fit in there. A lot of Hawkeyes there on Saturday night, no doubt about that. And the environment, really intimate, compact, and I think the team really fed off that, by the way, too.
I really enjoyed that, your coverage, and I turned the television, apologies to my buddy Jess Settles, and he'll be on this show after the first of the year, but turned on the Big Ten Network and listened to you on KRUI Sports, and it was interesting what you honed in on, which was Fran was ratcheted up for this game. Not just the tech, but he had a couple of laser stares, so this Hawkeye team was ready to roll. And by the way, Keegan Murray, second time this year so far that the Big Ten Player of the Week, but also leading the nation right now at 23.5 points a game. Let's talk about some of how ratcheted up Coach McCaffrey was, but also had good performances by Keegan, of course, but also Chris Murray, his twin brother, also Patrick McCaffrey, Jordan Bohannon. Fire away, John.
Yeah, I think the team's really coming together. You look at how the season's unfolded. You look at the game against Purdue. Tough game without Keegan. Hawks fought in that game. There's no doubt about that. You come home, play Illinois, another conference game. Fighting Illini, great team, good team in the conference. And if Iowa would have done a couple of things better in that game, you see them winning it. You go play Iowa State, tough game, tough environment there too. Credit Iowa State, they've got a good thing going.
And you actually called that, not on the top 10, and you called that game actually an outlier because the Hawks got smoked on the boards. Obviously, and you said you and your press pool friends queried Fran on that. So obviously the Hawks worked on some rebounding, so that wasn't an issue on Saturday night.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Utah State only had 2 offensive boards. Hawks did a nice job cleaning the glass. And I call that game against Iowa State a little bit of an outlier, but that wasn't confirmed until I saw how Iowa played against Utah State. I like the way the Hawks played against the Aggies. Positive momentum now through the end of the year.
Love that. Speaking of going into the end of the year, got a game as we record this on Tuesday, December 21st, Tuesday afternoon. They play Southeastern Louisiana tonight at Carver Hawkeye. Then they have next Wednesday, the 29th, they play Western Illinois University, who's having a nice season so far. Those 2 games notwithstanding, Hawks should go into the new calendar year and restart their Big Ten season at 10-3 overall, but 0-2 in the Big Ten with those 2 tough losses, as you mentioned, at Purdue and at home against Illinois. So now they go to Maryland on January 3rd, and then, of course, we'll record another fresh show on Tuesday, January 4th, the day after that game. So let's lead up to the rest of the Big Ten, or going into that Big Ten season again, restarting.
Yeah, that first week of January is going to be tough. You get Maryland coming to town, and then you go to Wisconsin after that. So those are 2 tough teams. I think Maryland's a little bit down this year. They fired their coach earlier in the year, mutually decided to part ways. But
Mark Turgeon, yes.
Yeah, I think Maryland will be a tough game, but it'll be a nice test to see how Iowa can rebound in the Big Ten conference play slate, and then that game with Wisconsin. So, yeah, 0-2, but you look at the 2, it was Purdue and Illinois, and those are 2 of the probably top 4 or 5 teams that are going to be in the conference when we talk about it in March.
Good news is they get to face both those teams again, too. 20 Big Ten games this year, so 2 extra Big Ten games, 2 less non-conference, as well as the fact that I don't want to get too far ahead, but then the next week they play Indiana. So it's a rigorous schedule. By the way, before that Indiana game, we're planning on having Chris Murray join us, since we had Keegan Murray on earlier, and then we're going to close out the year, next week's show going into the new year, with some best-of clips of the McCaffreys, but also some other best-of clip shows. John, quick takeaway here in the last 20 seconds or so of this segment with you. Great job this first segment out. Man, you're killing it. But give us your takeaway of the season so far going into the Citrus Bowl. You're going down to Florida, calling the Hawks. We talked about it earlier in the show with both Jameses, Vandenberg and Morris. Your thoughts?
Yeah, for the football team, this is an opportunity to cap off a really nice season. I don't know if it's a surprise to get to this point, but to get to 10 wins is always a good thing. And let's get to 11. Really happy with how the team's played this year.
You did very well. I'm going to have you back. Great stuff, John. Safe travels down to Florida, and we'll have you back after the first of the year. Want to hear all about the bowl game. And I want to let you listeners know. So, John, again, Merry Christmas to you. Happy New Year to you and your family. And I know you watch this show with your dad, so hello, Pops Leo. So, very cool stuff. And I like John Leo even more so because Leo, your last name, was my dad's first name. So there we go. So special connection there. But hey, to you, the viewers, thanks for tuning in all year long. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year to you from all of us here at Hawkeyed with me, Dave O'Hara. So for all of us, John Leo, Greg and Stacy Schroeder, James Vandenberg and James Morris, I'm Dave O'Hara. That's all from us. Thanks to all of you. And as always, thanks for staying tuned at the end of the program for these rolling credits to give our advertisers and sponsors the attention and credit they so richly deserve. And as always, to our aforementioned guests and to you, the viewers. That's all from us at Hawkeyed. Thanks to all of you.